Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's Monday, March 24th, 2025, and this is your AM update.
We need Greenland for national security and even international security.
President Trump sending a high-level delegation to Greenland, which he has vowed to obtain one way or another.
We are witnessing an oligarchy in America.
As Democrats struggle to find their footing, AOC hits the road, fueling speculation about her political future. A former U.S. attorney found dead in her home, and box office numbers are in for Disney's scandal-plagued woke live-action remake of Snow White. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. If you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. April 15th could mark another tax year that has passed you by. So the smart move is to get ahead of it now. But listen, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, you could let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Well, not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, so they know exactly which agents to deal with and which ones to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe 10 grand or 10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Speak with one of their strategists today for free, and don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. That's tnusa.com/Megyn. April 15th is just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first. President Trump's bid to acquire Greenland about to get very real. High-ranking Trump administration officials set to visit Greenland from Thursday to Sunday as President Trump eyes the Arctic territory. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright will reportedly tour Bidufeek Space Force Base, the DoD's northernmost installation. Second Lady Usha Vance will also join, her second solo international trip since the second Trump administration took office. The Office of the Second Lady releasing a statement saying Ms. Vance will, quote, learn about Greenlandic heritage and attend Greenland's national dog sled race. An idea that began under the first Trump administration, acquiring Greenland, receiving renewed focus under Trump 2.0, even getting special mention in the president's inaugural address.
We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
President Trump believes acquiring Greenland poses significant national security and economic benefits. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining the strategic significance of Greenland, in part, on the Megyn Kelly Show.
The Arctic, which has gotten very little attention, but the Arctic Circle and the Arctic region is going to become critical for shipping lanes, for how do you get some of this energy that's going to be produced under President Trump. These energies rely on shipping lanes. The Arctic is some of the most valuable shipping lanes in the world. As some of the ice is melting, it's become more and more navigable. We need to be able to defend that.
President Trump previously would not rule out using military force to acquire the island, though there is a stronger possibility of the U.S. either purchasing Greenland or working out another deal. Greenland is a semi-autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, both Danish and Greenlandic officials firmly rejecting the idea of joining the U.S. The Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, saying, quote, in the kingdom, we wish to cooperate with the Americans, but it must and shall be a cooperation based on the fundamental values of sovereignty and mutual respect between nations and peoples. This is something we take seriously. 2 weeks ago, the pro-independence center-right Demokratiet Party winning 30% of the seats in Greenland's parliament, the leader of the party and likely next prime minister, Jens Frag Nielsen, calling President Trump, quote, a threat to our political independence. As Democrat lawmakers struggle to find their footing, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders take their show on the road. The pair of Democrat socialists drawing a crowd of more than 30,000 on Friday night in Denver, reportedly. Senator Sanders, a twice-failed Democrat primary challenger, saying it was his largest rally ever. The event's billed as the Fighting Oligarchy Tour, taking aim at President Trump and Elon Musk.
We are witnessing an oligarchy in America with the most economic, political, and technological power destroy the public good to enrich themselves while millions of Americans pay the price.
We will not allow America to become an oligarchy. This nation was built by working people. We're not going to let a handful of billionaires run the government.
The media responding enthusiastically to the rallies, devoting much glowing coverage.
The Democratic Party has been facing growing backlash and calls for a new leader as it tries to find its footing in the new Trump administration. And two prominent progressives are now taking that momentum on the road.
Senator Bernie Sanders, whose anti-oligarchy message is resonating around the country with crowds that have exceeded the turnout of some presidential rallies, despite there being no election anytime soon.
There is clearly an appetite for this message. The Democratic establishment cannot afford to ignore this energy center of the party.
Less prominent, any fact check of the oligarch claim or any mention of the Democrats' embrace of their own billionaires, from George Soros and Reid Hoffman to Michael Bloomberg and Oprah. Back on the Hill, cracks deepening among Democrats, the infighting ramping up following Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's decision to advance the continuing resolution. Mr. Schumer stated his decision was out of fear of what Elon Musk and Doge could do to further slash the government in a shutdown. AOC in particular, highly critical of Senator Schumer's decision.
Chuck Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator, said at this meeting that he is going to vote for cloture. He is going to vote to allow there to be a simple majority vote. You think that's wrong?
I believe that's a tremendous mistake. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
In the wake of the continuing resolution vote, some Democrats reportedly encouraging AOC to launch a primary challenge against Mr. Schumer. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez is 35 years old now. There's some speculation on whether she will run for president in 2028. A recent Morning Consult poll among Democrat and Democrat-leaning voters showing 36% prefer Kamala Harris, AOC trailing far behind with just 5%. Senator Sanders asked by ABC if President Trump has done anything right so far.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah, I mean, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks illegal immigration is appropriate.
Under President Trump, border crossings are at historic lows, and the New York Times reports that fentanyl labs in Mexico are closing up shop in areas where they were doing big business. Coming up, Republicans divided on impeachment weigh other legislative options to rein in what they see as activist judges. And box office numbers are in for Disney's scandal-plagued woke live-action remake of Snow White. You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you, too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, and for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There is no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Universal injunctions becoming a major storyline of the second Trump administration, sparking debate among Republicans on how best to deal with perceived rogue judges. A universal injunction, which blocks federal policies nationwide, is typically issued by a single federal district court judge. During the appeals process, the case is then reviewed by a 3-judge panel at the circuit court level. The Supreme Court can also weigh in on the injunction if it is appealed or if emergency relief is requested. Lifting a nationwide injunction can take several months to more than a year following a full appeals process. So far in the second Trump administration, judges have imposed at least 15 universal injunctions, including blocking a ban on transgender people serving in the military, blocking an end to birthright citizenship, limiting attempts to freeze federal funding, and halting the deportation of gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. These 15 orders in some 2 months, far surpassing previous administrations. President George W. Bush facing a total of 6 over 8 years, just 12 for President Obama in 2 terms, and 14 for President Biden in 4 years. In President Trump's first administration, there were 64. The Harvard Law Review pointing out 92% of these injunctions imposed on the first Trump administration were issued by Democrat-appointed judges. White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative, Political, and Public Affairs, James Blair, telling Politico this is part of a concerted effort to thwart the Trump agenda.
It is a tactic for judges to throw a stay on something, know they can bounce it around in court for 3 years. Maybe it'll end up the Supreme Court. During that time, we won't be able to deport any gang members because these judges have decided so.
Mr. Blair going on to say the judges have, quote, effectively neutered an entire plank of the administration. Several congressmen introducing articles of impeachment against 4 judges in recent weeks. President Trump recently calling for the impeachment of U.S. District Judge James Boasberg of the District of D.C. He's chief judge there. Judge Boasberg blocked the Trump administration's effort to deport suspected Tren de Aragua gang members under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The DOJ now in an onerous battle with Judge Boasberg to prove it did not violate his order by not calling back 2 planes filled with gang members, they say, deported under the AEA. As members of the Trump administration publicly push for the removal of what they call activist judges, House Speaker Mike Johnson weighing his options. Removing a judge via the impeachment process requires 67 votes in the Senate. That's not going to happen under the current balance of power. Political reporting, even among House Republicans, support is mixed. One senior House Republican aide saying, quote, it's never going to happen. There aren't the votes. California Congressman Darrell Issa preparing to introduce the No Rogue Rulings Act in April. The bill seeks to restrict a judge's ability to issue an injunction beyond the parties directly involved in a case. As an example, if a nonprofit sues the Trump administration because DOJ cuts its funding, under the No Rogue Rulings Act, a judge would only be able to issue a ruling that applies to that specific nonprofit, not a nationwide injunction blocking the funding cuts for everyone. Politico reporting on a number of impeachment alternative strategies. Some GOP members are discussing resolutions condemning recent rulings against the Trump administration. Those moves would be purely symbolic. Other discussions involve cutting the funding for the federal district court in Washington or breaking up the existing district and circuit courts entirely. Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, telling CNN he will hold hearings to investigate possible steps the House can take.
We plan on holding hearings, hearing from experts, talking about this whole kind of body of law, this whole situation. Again, everything is on the table. We're considering all options. That's why we passed legislation. There may be another legislative remedy we want to look at. But we do think it's important for us to gather information, get input on this issue.
Speaker Johnson saying he, quote, looks forward to working with the Judiciary Committee as they review all available options under the Constitution to address this urgent matter. Former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Jessica Aber, found dead on Saturday morning. Ms. Aber, just 43. Alexandria police responding to a 9:18 a.m. phone call reporting an unresponsive woman. Little's known about the circumstances surrounding Ms. Aber's death, who placed the call, where she was found, what condition her body was in, all unknown at the moment. Police revealing little information other than confirming an investigation is underway. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner will determine the cause and manner of death. Ms. Aber resigned from her post as U.S. Attorney on January 20th. President Trump's inauguration day. President Biden appointed Ms. Aber to office in August of 2021. She was confirmed by the Senate that October. In her time as U.S. Attorney, Ms. Aber heading high-profile investigations into intel leaks, Russian fraud plots, and war crime allegations. Just days before resigning, Ms. Aber securing a conviction when an ex-CIA official pleaded guilty to leaking top-secret documents meant to hurt Israel. The documents outlining an Israeli retaliation attempt against Iran. Ms. Aber also involved in charging 4 Russian soldiers with war crimes against an American citizen living in Ukraine. The DOJ alleging the defendants tortured, beat, and threatened to kill the unidentified American. The defendants are not likely to appear in the U.S. to face charges. And, of course, Ms. Aber had already stepped down as U.S. Attorney at the time of her death. U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert releasing a statement reading in part, quote, "We are heartbroken beyond words. Ms. Aber was unmatched as a leader, mentor, and prosecutor, and she is simply irreplaceable as a human being. We will be monitoring this story and bring you more information as it becomes available." Disney's live-action remake of Snow White, dogged with woke controversies and delays, bombs at the box office on opening weekend. The film bringing in just $16 million on opening day, finishing the weekend just shy of $50 million domestically, far below expectations. Variety reporting the film also falling millions short of its projected $100 million international debut. The House of Mouse spent an estimated $270 million making this movie. The premiere, originally planned for March 2024, delayed by a full year after several controversies, mostly involving its outspoken woke lead actress, Rachel Zegler. Problems arising early on with Ms. Zegler trashing the original Snow White.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Ms. Zegler, starring opposite Israeli actress Gal Gadot, also drawing significant backlash in August 2024, thanking fans for support on X, then writing, quote, "And always remember, free Palestine." In the wake of the 2024 election, Ms. Zegler writing on Instagram, quote, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. F Donald Trump." Ms. Zegler later apologized for the post when she received backlash. The movie also taking heat early on from Peter Dinklage, an actor with dwarfism, for even remaking the movie at all. Mr. Dinklage making these comments on the WTF with Mark Maron podcast.
I was a little taken back by the they were very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White,
yeah.
Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the fuck are you doing, man?
Disney responding by reimagining the dwarfs as magical creatures, a move also drawing backlash from other actors with dwarfism for denying them employment opportunities, like the kind Peter Dinklage had. Snow White's underwhelming opening weekend marking the lowest domestic debut of any Disney live-action remake. Turns out maybe telling half the country you hate them and the character Snow White wasn't a great marketing strategy. That'll do it for your AM update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for the Megyn Kelly Show, live on SiriusXM Triumph Channel 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.